little white monkey drum in your life.
You're a teenager. Bass is kind of like emerging. It's so interesting because I listened to your song today and I was like, it is so Miami. It didn't dawn on me till I've heard it a million times, but today like it's actually so Miami, you know. So you're a teenager, and then what's your first kind of inclination into like entering the world of making music?
It was okay. So you know the whole idea of DIY now.
Yep.
Back then, the whole world was DIY.
Yeah.
So back then, we were already drawing on our sneakers and on our jeans,
Yeah.
and you know, we were already. I was already writing rhymes. That's what
Yeah.
everyone was doing. We were all breakdancing.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like
You were breakdancing?
I was popping and locking. My brother was doing more of the floor work. And we would go battle Zulus.
I don't envision you breakdancing so much, but as in being like, this more, like
Yeah.
Crazy Legs
And
Crazy Legs was on here on Monday. He had some amazing stories.
huh?
Crazy Legs was on here on Monday. Speaking of breakdancing, he had some amazing stories. Crazy Legs.
So incredible.
Yeah.
Ah, that dude's cool.
I love him. Okay, so you start writing rhymes, you start kind of like doing it yourself. Doing what yourself?
We were doing it already. And I get to Miami, and it's just the idea of a girl rhyming was a huge novelty. Because again, it was like culture shock. It was real country. Their music was really fast. Dudes were mostly doing it, but then there'd be like the comeback song. You know, comeback song was real big back then.
Yep.
So there were a few girls that were coming back doing comeback songs, but bass style. Sort of like how Roxanne Shante was doing with UTFO. They were doing Miami bass comebacks.
Got it.
Which was really funny and fun. And bass had this sort of like free spirit element to it where people were just wilding out. They were saying whatever. And it was just a party. Being a young teenage girl that liked to party, I felt like really naturally into that scene.
Funny how things
I started off.
Funny how things have changed so much for you. Not like
Right? I felt real naturally into the party.
Yeah, exactly.
So there was this. So teen clubs were really big in Miami back then.
Yep.
There were roller skating rinks. I guess they must have been big everywhere. But yeah, because there were a lot of like Dance Party USA and like teen TV shows with dance parties and stuff. And so we had our local version, our Miami version, was called Miami Teen Express. It shot on a Thursday, and it would show on the local TV station on Sundays, which meant I had to sneak out of my house on Thursday night to go to the club.
Yep.
My friend Nikki and I, Tricky Nikki, who ended up doing a comeback song to MC Hammer's Can't Touch This called I Touched It. I touched it. Yeah, it's so good. I'll send it to you. Yeah, I gotta send it to you. We became featured dancers. We became featured dancers, and it was produced by the Gucci Crew.
Oh, amazing.
Which were
amazing.
Big Miami bass legends. So we were featured dancers every week. And every Sunday, it was a big fight for me to try and make sure that my family didn't put on the local TV station so they wouldn't see me on the TV because I snuck out of the house on Thursday. In any event,
like an 80s,
we got
like an 80s movie.
Huh?
Sounds like an 80s movie. Like not letting your parents go to TV and like, I think it was a movie called Girls Just Want to Have Fun. That's plot to
Yeah. Exactly. So in any event, that's how we started. I started like getting to know the local rappers like Two Live Crew, you know, the Gucci Crew, and at that club at the time, again, hip hop wasn't a huge movement yet. So there were a few places in the country where they would book people like LL Cool J, Salt and Pepper, and a lot of the rappers. And so that's where I started becoming introduced to the rap community proper.
Yeah.
It's also where I met Bunny for the first time.
Got it. So Yeah, so L Cool J and Salt and Pepper stuff, they're becoming kind of big stars during that time. That's like,
Right.
they're kind of like really Run DMC, L Cool J, Salt and Pepper, maybe like the Beastie Boys. They all were becoming really big stars. Like, and like again, it was like
Right.
Houdini and them. I always loved them, but they never became like these like mega stars that kind of next
It was a
generation.
yeah, like mainstream America knew who they were.
Yeah.
Kid and
Okay.
Play was making movies and stuff.
So you meet Bunny, and then what?
And then, so Nikki and I had a band before Bunny and I had a band.
Got it.
So Nikki and I had our own band. She went to a different high school. Nikki and I met in junior high.
Got it.
She went to a different high school. Bunny was a year older than us. I ended up going to the high school Bunny went to.
Got it.
And then she and I formed a band. One of the local rappers, Rob, he had this song called Fresh Out the Box about his kicks back in the day. He used to be our, hey, Spencer. He used to be like our ride from school sometimes, and he had to stop by the studio one night to pick up some demos that he'd done. And so he picks Bunny and I up from high school. We drive by the studio, and we go into the booth, and we just start pretending that, whatever we're rapping. And they catch us in the booth, and they're like, hey, can you guys write a song? Have you heard of Salt and Pepper? And we're like, yeah, we got a routine, and we're like doing our choreography for them. And we're like doing the toilet bowl and the fila. And they're like, do you think you could write a comeback song? And that was mortifying because they were our heroes. We didn't want to write a comeback song to them, but we're like, yeah, of course we could do whatever.
Yeah.
So we wrote Grab It that night.
Yeah.
Which ended up picking up momentum, taking us on the road. And then and then we did the full album, and Cars with the Boom was like supposed to be a B-side. It was one of the songs on the album. But that's what got us the attention from Atlantic. So they ended up picking us up.
Well, it's so interesting because so many people have that same story. They were just kind of in the studio, hanging out with somebody, and they kind of like stumbled into like onto the microphone, and then it turned into something amazing. So you mean?
We stumbled into the booth. We stumbled onto the mic. That's exactly how it happened. And it feels, again, going back to the whole DIY thing, it feels like that's how things kind of happened back then, was organically,
Yeah,
you discovered music that way. You discovered music because you were on the subway and someone had a boombox and you heard what they were listening to.
Yeah.
Yep.
Also, a lot of times too, another very common thing is that people's biggest hits sometimes were meant to be a B-side. You mean? So funny.
Cars with the Boom was a B-side.
Yeah, so funny. Okay, so you record your album. You got signed to Atlantic, you said?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, got signed to Atlantic. You record the album. When does Cars That Go Boom come out? Like in proximity to that?
That came out, I would say, 89.
I'm saying,
the album.
Had your album been out already, or it came out before your album, after your album? What?
The album was out. The first album was out already. It was on the first album. We did 3 albums.
Okay.
So Grab It was released as a single. Cutie Pie, which was like a love song, because we did rap love songs back then, like LL Cool J, I Need Love, and stuff like that. So Cutie Pie was our love song, and that was kind of taking us around as well. And then when Cars with the Boom came out, it happened to be around the same time that the car culture was really big at the time, where there was a lot of cruising taking place in California and in Florida. It was also at the same time that Tiffany and Debbie Gibson were coming out, and they were like teeny boppers.
Yep.
Because of the way that we looked and we dressed, and because of the subject matter, really. They didn't really, and we were so young, they didn't really know where to place us. Like black radio and white radio weren't sure, because it wasn't.
How old were you?
Sorry?
How old were you?
I was 15 when I signed.
What? I thought you were older.
Nah, I was 15 when I signed. By the time Cars with the Boom came out, I was like 17 to 19, that area.
Got it.
But yeah, I was the first single. I was 15.
Didn't know that. Okay. Okay, so Cars That Go Boom comes out. It becomes a big hit, obviously, right?
Yeah.
And so then, what happened? You guys go on tour. Tell me some what's going on at that point then.
Yeah, so it was really interesting because radio and pop culture in general, we're still trying to figure out what to do with rap music. You know, like, does it go on R&B stations, but like everybody loves it, so does it go to the pop radio station? Like, what do we do with it? And then throw us in the mix, and we're like teenage girls in lipstick and heels, and it's like, well, what exactly are they? So a lot of, like, we'd end up with Tiffany and Debbie Gibson, or we'd end up with like De La Soul on the road, and Biz Marquee, or we'd end up, it was a big hodgepodge of like sticking us wherever they thought, whichever promoters thought we'd fit into. So it was pretty cool because of the variation of audiences we got to play for, the different artists that we got to meet and play with, playing with Paula Abdul and the Jets on one tour, and then
Love
you
that.
know JJ, we'd come around them a lot because we were around the same age and similar vibes. So we made some lifelong friendships as well. We played with De La a lot too.
Great. I didn't know
So
that. Right. Well, because
yeah,
the reality is, you're right. Now that you say it, because you guys were, really pretty girls wearing high heels and rapping, which nobody else was doing that at that time. To be honest, the girls were always hard. Like I said,
nobody.
even Salt and Pepper, they were hard. I mean, they were like feminine, but they were also really hard. You guys weren't. You guys.
No.
Both
Well,
of,
they dressed a lot like the guys, and sometimes we got heat for it too, because back in the day, it was the worst thing you could call a rapper was soft.
yeah.
And so we ended up writing lyrics about it, being like, we're not mean rappers, we like to smile.
Yeah.
So because there was sort of that uniform that the guys and the girls were wearing. There was this legitimacy, which was the bomber jackets, the biker shorts, the gold chain, things like that. De La Soul came out with their video, sort of like,
Yeah.
Making away with all of that, and we came out wearing lace ruffle shorts and bustiers, and did away with sort of that uniform too. But we did get a lot of heat for it, where it was, what was informing me was Sheila E.
Yeah, exactly.
But the idea was that we were soft because we weren't dressing the same way, we weren't rapping about the same types of things,
Yeah.
talking about boys in the mall and shit. So we'd end up with, De La Soul or Tiffany.
And, where are you supposed to, where else are they going to put you with, not with Public Enemy, you know what I mean? So, like.
But sometimes we would. And, that's the best part, is that when people were, the people who did come out in support at the time were people like, like on It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back, in the liner notes when they're talking about who they're giving shout outs to, and they're talking about the ladies, they include L TRIMM.
Oh, amazing.
And that meant a lot to us.
Great.
That meant a lot to us because we're like, well, we don't care what the critics think. Public Enemy legitimizes that.
Great.
MC Light and Too Short, came out in support as well. At the time, there were rap was new enough that there were so many facets of it.
You're right.
It was the time where another insult was to call you a biter because you sounded like somebody else.
Yeah.
It was a time where your voice had to be unique. There was Gorilla Black, poor guy, he was great, but his voice sounded like Biggie's, so he didn't really go as far as he should have.
Yeah.
Where that's not necessarily the case anymore, but you knew Big Daddy Kane when you heard him.
Yeah.
You knew
Rakim.
he was not Rakim when you heard him. You knew the person's voice.
Yes.
So, and their style and everything like that. So, yeah, Kwame had his polka dots.
Yeah. All of them. Yeah. So.
Yeah. So it was a multifaceted sort of art form and expression at the time. It really kind of changed and became one kind of like Models and Bottles, and let's talk about drugs and bitches and pimps.
We're like we're still in the 80s, and
oh yeah.
So you guys are becoming, basically big stars. Your songs are, especially Cars That Go Boom, is really popular. What are some of the like kind of crazy good or bad stories, like, I don't know, good or bad during that time? Because you know that was a really big time for. It was like when rap was becoming pop music, realistically. You know, like all those songs were being played on the
Yeah.
mainstream radio, and it was a really interesting time. And you were basically a part of that, as in and unique within it, as these two young girls dressing sexy, rapping. So I mean, that must be really interesting. But
Yeah.
I'm sure guys were hitting on you left and right. You know, what are any? Tell me any stories. Both could be good or bad. I don't care. Tell me something, some stories.
Well, it was what was incredible. What was really incredible was how much. Well, there were some guys that were trying to cross the line. There were a lot of people, especially it was like cocaine was big at that time, so there were people that would show up and sort of try to hand you drugs, and people trying to hand you, being like, oh, sign my $100 bill, but they're really just trying to like pay you off for some shady shit. But most of the time it was people like I said, I've made some lifelong friends, the dudes from Kid and Play, the dudes from Gucci Crew, Kwame, De La, all those guys were like really protective. They were like big brothers. The
Good.
guys from Two Live wouldn't even let us out of the dressing room when they were performing because they didn't want us to see all of the shenanigans.
That's so
And
annoying.
if we had appearances, yeah,
I
if we
love,
had appearances
I love
together,
that crew.
yeah, it was. I was like, yeah, I heard there was all sorts of shenanigans on stage, but I didn't get to experience it. We'd have to stay backstage. They didn't want us to see it. If we had appearances with them, they'd come pick us up from our houses and make sure we stayed in the VIP room so there'd be no shenanigans because we were minors again. So the dudes were actually really protective and helped make the experience a lot safer for us than you would think. It wasn't this really misogynistic, crazy situation. There were a couple. I won't name them. They're still alive, but they definitely were buffered by the other ones that would just be like, back off.
Well, that's not what I thought you were going to say, and that's great that those guys were really protective of you. That's
Mm-hmm.
an awesome
Yeah.
different direction. Wait, Cyber, Shin just came out here from Japan. He says hi. Shin.
Hi, Shin. Oh my God. Hi, Shin.
Okay, so it's turning like the 80s are coming to an end, and what's going on with your guys' career then? So what happens next for you?
So what's happening now? Things are doing great for us. We're going on like yoMTV Raps and just like all the different the BET shows and all the Dance Party USAs and things like that. We're touring all over the place nonstop. And we're like signed to the major. We're doing music videos. So what ends up happening now is people want to mess with the formula.
Yep.
They're sort of like, they want to, I don't know what happens, but they're like, we want to take credit for the success of what is already successful.
Yeah.
So we're gonna change it.
Yeah.
So they'd come in being like, I'd be working hard on some song, and they'd be like, crumple it up, throw it in the garbage, and be like, black people don't talk like that. And I'd be like, well, we use multi-syllables. Yes, we are multisyllabic, and I just, sort of would crush your spirit because this was something that was supposed to be fun for us, and it was our voice. Or
it was you doing your art, and that's so.
Yeah.
The reality, if you're writing something, it is vulnerable that you wrote it, and it's a terrible thing to do to someone. I mean, an artist. So.
Yeah.
Maybe not. It's not connecting. Hey, Tigre. It says we're connecting, but I don't see you. Ray, how you doing? Send me some cool photos I can post. Okay, Tigre's on her laptop now. Her phone got too hot, she said. Of course it did. It's Tigre. Too hot. Too hot to handle, too cold to hold. Okay, trying to figure it out on her computer. Yes, Elizabeth's saying that she admired Prince and didn't want to ruin her image of him. Yes, but when he's in your face and calling you to find out, I was in the exact same situation. He was calling to see where to go and everything. But, she was playing hard to get. I get it. Shin, when are you going to do this, please? Why won't you do this with me? We should revolt. Shin won't do it. What time is it, by the way? I don't have my clock or phone. I don't want to, go overtime because I had my Legendary Thursdays party at 8:30, and Khalees and I went over much time. Tonight, on my Legendary Thursdays party, by the way, we're premiering B. Bozeman's new single. Okay, thank you, Andrea. We're premiering B. Bozeman's new single, which is premiering. It gets released at 12 a.m. New York time, so she's performing tonight. So, oh, here's Tigre. Okay. I think she's joining now. Okay, got it. Good. Okay.
I had to go stand in front of the air conditioning.
Okay, good. Okay. Eric LaPoe asked if I have been to Paisley Park or you. I've never been. Have you?
No, I haven't been to Paisley Park.
I've been invited several times, and about 2014, 15, and or maybe 13, 14. I didn't go, and I regret it very much, to be honest. So.
I do too. There are a few situations like that where I was like, that was really silly. Crazy. Where I just didn't make it. And I've been around him 100 times, and every time he had the best sense of humor. So every time he found a way to tease me, make me giggle, make me a little uncomfortable.
Crazy.
He put me on stage that time at Madison Square Garden.
Yes, you and me both, boo. Crazy Legs just joined. Crazy Legs, we're talking to Tigre from L TRIMM. Crazy Legs just joined.
Hi. That's so dope.
Okay, so cut to, we work in nightclubs together for many years. We developed a strong bond and relationship, and you performed for me many times. Listen, I love when people perform, you know that. So, but for me, I think I know what my favorite performance that you did, what was the favorite performance you did for me?
I loved that Gabrielle Union knew all the words.
Number one, that's my number one favorite. You performed for me, I would say probably 30 times at least, right? I always perform. So, Gabrielle, I did the parties for Gabrielle Union with Joseph Solis, and it was a touring party, and we did like New York, LA, Miami. Hey, Ben, what's up? Love you. Frank was on here. Frank won't do this, by the way, Ben. So, Gabrielle Union, I did a series of parties for her in Miami, Atlanta, New York, and LA. And so I did the LA party, and I invited Tigre to come. And she came, but the surprise was Gabrielle Union loves 80s music, and particularly 80s girl female rap. So we didn't tell her, and we had Tigre perform as a surprise. And she looked at me, Gabrielle, I looked at her, and she was like, no way. But the clincher is she knew every lyric of Bunny's part. And I thought it was going to be Tigre alone, and she knew every lyric, and she did it right with you. She didn't miss one beat, right?
She jumped right in, did not miss a beat. It's like we've been performing together, like we've been on tour together for years. She knew every single word.
I was so shocked that she jumped right. I thought she was going to watch you perform it, but she grabbed the mic with you and did it with you the whole time.
Yeah, the whole time. That was amazing. It was the cutest thing in the world.
Yeah, it was really cute. I have video of that. I should put okay, so Tigre, you're now in LA.
And it was the first time I didn't have to do it by myself, because generally it's like, I'm Tigre and Tigre.
But you didn't have to do it. He was Bunny. I mean, shout out to Gabrielle Union for that one, right? I didn't even know. She knew every word.
Every word. She did not skip. She did not miss a beat.
Okay, so you're in LA now, and what are you working on now? What is your focus? What's going on with you in LA?
I'm making music. I'm still making music with my boy Spencer. We have a project called Tigre and Spencer.
Oh, good.
Which kind of like focuses on the diaspora. It's diasporic music, so it draws from our roots. He's like his southern roots, my Haitian roots, and it's like, but it's still happy party music, dance music.
Good.
And it's like just a really beautiful place to be right now. We work really well together.
Excellent. And then are you going to do any shows, or are you finishing an album, or what's going on with that? Where can they see?
Yeah, we have a.
Where can they see you, or where can they find the music?
Well, you can follow us, Tigre and Spencer, SPNCR. We're constantly posting stuff there. We released a single already called Can't Walk Away.
Yep.
And we have an upcoming release. We were actually talking to the label yesterday about it. But you know, everything's kind of on hold. I'm just keeping it COVID cute over here, but we can't really play. We were thinking about. My birthday's in July. Huh?
I want to tell one more story before we wrap it up. The Prince story.
Okay.
Okay. So So Tigre and I both love Prince very much. So she came to Lotus one
Yeah.
Sunday night. I've been drinking, and she says to me, I can't hear her. She's like mumbling in my ear or something, and I can't hear her. She asked me something, and I said, she asked me again, and I go, no, I'm good, whatever, because I can't hear her, you mean? And so the next day I wake up, and Andrea Westinghouse says, Prince is playing. What was that club called again?
Black.
Yeah.
That whole story was, the whole thing was crazy. The whole story was crazy.
So I wake up the next morning. Andrea says, Prince is playing this place. It's a club called Black. We got to go. I'm like, yes, we got to go. And I think she found out. She goes, I heard that this person, Tigre, is in charge of it. We got to talk to this girl, Tigre. And I say, okay, you know me. I'm on it. I'm like, I'm getting us in. There's no way we're not doing this. I mean, so I call you.
Wait, no. It gets even better because first I asked you, I'm like, listen, because he gave me like 30 tickets, and I'm like, I don't know 30 people. There are 30 people that I want to come to this party or whatever. First of all, it was a sold-out show that with like radio advertisement and stuff, and he changed the venue sight unseen because he wanted to do the after party at Spa. But then he called me, and I'm like, I don't think we're big enough, but we have this club that's not open yet that's opening up. And he's like, what's it called? And I said Black, and sight unseen, because he loved that it was called Black, was like changed the whole venue of the whole show. So now I have 30 tickets, and I'm like, of course. I called Damon, listen, you and all your friends, bring your whole crew. And he's like, nah, I'm good. So then the next day, right before the show, I call you. I'm like, listen, so, I'm doing this party. If you want, I'll give you 30 tickets. And you're like, nah, I'm okay. I'm cool. And then you call me back, and you're like, wait a minute. You were talking about the Prince performance?
First of all, no,
I'm like,
wrong. This is how it goes. I get a number from Andrea for someone called Tigre. That's the person in charge of the Prince party. Never piecing together that it was you ever. And you invited me the night before at Lotus, and I couldn't hear you, so I said, no, I'm good. Whatever you're saying, I'm like, I don't want to go to freaking some nightclub. I didn't know you were saying Prince's concert. I couldn't hear you. So
I was so confused.
I'm frantically trying to figure this out, and I called the number, no one answered, and finally, a girl, I'm like, can I speak to Tigre? And you're like, this is Tigre, and you go, Damon, this is Tigre. I'm like, wait. Damon, this is Tigre. I'm like, wait, by Tigre? Wait, I'm so confused. And then I said, are you going to the Prince party? You said yes. You go, I asked you to go last night, and you said you didn't want to go. I was so confused, which is very confusing. And I was like, very, very confused. So the whole day was confusing. Long story short, you ended up giving me 1 million tickets. I brought a huge crew, and we had a fabulous time.
Yeah. Yeah. Both of us, we're both just so confused. I'm like, I don't understand. You're sure? I don't understand.
I'm like, no, I want to go to the Prince party, but I couldn't hear you. I could not hear you. All right, my darling. So, anybody have any questions for Tigre before we wrap it up? I want to thank you so much for doing this, Tigre. It's been a really fun seeing your face, and hopefully you'll tune in. We have someone cool every night. I'm doing Lisa Cooper on Sunday. I'm really excited. I have
Yay, Lisa!
On Saturday. DJ Nikki Beatnick from London tomorrow.
Nikki, cool.
Yeah, exactly. So hopefully you can.
At the same time every night?
Yeah. Andrea said, is that the night he had the lights in his platform booths? Yes, Andrea, that's that night. Remember, we also walked up. We walked up, and it was a huge crowd, like maybe I don't know, 1,000, 2,000 people. And
the seas parted.
The seas did part. It was so fun. I was like, oh.
The seas parted. Everybody looked gorgeous. It was all the homies. I was like, my people have arrived.
Yes, you're like,
it was amazing.
All right, anybody have a question? What did you wear? I wore all purple. I always wear purple at a Prince concert. Tigre had the best outfits at life. Eric Lapo said that.
Thanks, Eric. I miss you, Eric.
Tigre's also a good kisser, guys.
That's true, I am.
I know firsthand. Andrew said best night.
Huh?
All right, guys. Anything else before we wrap it up? Tigre, I wish you all the success in the artistry that you earn and deserve. You earned and deserve. I want you to, be the artist you always have been and always will be. So don't ever let them, take it away from you. You are a truly creative individual.
Thank you.
True to yourself. You're a Leo, and you're a very Leo. But I think the takeaway from this whole conversation is that you wanted to be a Prince girl, and you became a Prince girl. You mean?
I love that. Thank you for saying that. I'm a Prince girl.
Yep. And you got it. Good for you. I'm happy.
Dream big, it comes true. Always dream big.
All right, my
I
darling.
love you
Love
so
you.
much. Thank you for including me. That was so much fun.
I love you too. Stay safe. Love you. Bye, guys.
Love you.
Tomorrow night.
Bye. Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.